was also an element of delusional confidence where I was like, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be great.
Hi, I'm Tania Tonello, and this is Find Your Dolce, the new podcast where we explore joyful living and how to create your Dolce Vita life. I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for joining. Let's get started. Hello and welcome. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to reinvent yourself with style inside and out. My guest today is Tania Tonello. She went from a high school teacher to becoming a full-time stylist, on-air fashion expert, and host, creating a career that feels completely aligned with who she is. We're talking about what it really takes to make that kind of leap, how she handles self-doubt, how she helps others express their true selves through style, and of course, what her Dolce is in her everyday. Welcome, Tania, and thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
All right, let's get right into it. So you wear so many hats: stylist, on-air fashion expert, model, event host. What does a day in the life of Tania Tonello look like?
So truthfully, every day is completely different, which is really an aspect of the work that I do that I love. You kind of touched upon like a previous career, and there's been several actually, but in those jobs, sometimes it was a bit of a routine or, kind of a set schedule, and every day looked similar. And in this role, truly every day is completely different, whether I'm, in a client's closet doing a closet edit, or at a mall, personal shopping, or filming on breakfast television. So I really, really love the variety.
That sounds, you know what, that is so beautiful because every day is exciting, right? And you don't know
Exactly.
what's going to come. Very, very cool. Before this chapter of your life, you were a high school teacher. You mentioned there was other careers as well. Can you take us back to that time in your life, and perhaps what was the moment that you decided there is something that is missing and I want to make that change?
So I really did love teaching. As a high school teacher, I loved connecting with teenagers. I think they're hilarious, they're spontaneous, great sense of humor. There's other aspects too, but overall, I really did love working with teenagers. It was more so something was inside of me, something was calling me. I didn't quite know what that looked like when I was teaching, but I did feel called to pursue something else. And actually, it wasn't until one of my aunts had suddenly passed away that it really woke me up to, as we all know, life is short, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so that was really the catalyst to have me start thinking outside of teaching and really considering other careers.
100%. Life is short. I totally understand that. Having that wake up call was truly a blessing, I think. So it allowed you to sort of search on that different path. I'm sure that fears and doubts came up though. It's not so easy to just switch over. So perhaps you can take us through that. Like, what kept you stable during that time so you could keep going in your change?
Yes, definitely all the fears and doubts have popped up throughout the journey, and they still continue to. I don't think we're ever feeling like completely safe and settled. I would say what's kind of kept me afloat and motivated to keep going is I am a faith-filled person, and that's a big part of who I am and my upbringing. So really leaning on my faith and trusting in the timing of my journey. And in looking back and, I'm sure in looking forward, it's really beautiful that there's always that right person at the right time. And I couldn't have orchestrated this kind of journey on my own. And so, of course, I have put in the work, I have taken risks. However, a lot of the progress in the journey is beyond anything that I could have controlled.
That's very cool. You know what? 100% I believe in divine timing. Things happen for a reason. So very interesting to hear that you had that involved in your journey too. Now, how about the people around you? We're often told, it's usually those closest to you that sometimes make it hard. So did you find anything like that? Did you have, people that you could lean on? You did mention there was people involved that helped, but how did you deal with sort of the naysayers?
I feel very, very fortunate that my family was very supportive. I think, I'm not a parent, but I think as parents, ultimately, you just want to see your children happy. And I really was searching for more happiness within my career. So very grateful that my family was supportive. Of course, there were naysayers, as you mentioned, and I would say perhaps that was more former colleagues that, when they heard I was leaving teaching, there was a lot of, how can you leave that security and the benefits and all of that. And I didn't really have a super outlined specific plan as to what I was walking towards. So I think people project their own insecurities and, they're thinking, what are you doing? You're leaving all of this. Again, I think it was, a little bit of, well, definitely faith. There was also an element of delusional confidence where I was like, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be great. And also, I always had teaching to go back to. It wasn't as if I didn't like that career, and there's always teaching jobs. So I think knowing that I could always go back to teaching also put me at ease.
100%. And you know what? I love that phrase that says, like, no one can take your education away from you or your experience away from you. So I think that's a great point to mention, because when people are considering maybe making a change or, taking that leap of faith, like, you have to remember that there is always those doors. They're not fully closed usually. And someone told me something really wise one time. They said, life is ever flowing. So
Mm.
that really hit me, because I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, sometimes we see things as black and white, but it's really not like that. And over the years, as I've grown older, I've totally seen the truth in that statement. So something very important to mention, I think.
I love that.
Mhm. As someone who helps others present their best selves, what are some of your go-to tips for your clients that helps them step into their best version?
So, because I'm working primarily, of course, with fashion and clothing and styling, I think what's so important is proper fit, because when things are fitting us properly, we're not fidgeting, we're not uncomfortable in our clothes. And I mention that because when we are fidgeting and we're not feeling comfortable, that's going to affect how we're presenting ourselves, and it's going to dip into our confidence factor as well. So I think, wearing clothes that are comfortable, that fit well, fabrics that feel good on us, that's really going to lend itself to presenting our most confident selves.
That's a very, very good point. I don't think many people sometimes realize that. They just put on whatever to look the latest, the greatest, but you really have to be comfortable because it will show up in other ways. So very, very
For
cool.
sure. Like, for example, low rise jeans are kind of coming back. Well, those aren't touching my body. I have a very long torso. I'm not going to feel comfortable. I'm going to be adjusting my pants, pulling them up. And that's not the vibe. We always want to feel good and comfortable in our skin and in our clothes,
Oh, yeah.
ideally.
Yeah. As someone who also has a long torso, I totally get it. I get it. And no, I'm not wearing those either. Oh my goodness. Being a model and actress, you also have to present yourself in your best way. How do you do that when you're not really feeling it on that day?
There are definitely those days, and it's really a roll of a dice sometimes. And it's a little bit of, I don't want to say fake it till you make it. I'm not a huge fan of that saying, but you just got to show up, and I've always used fashion as armor, as a tool to build my confidence, even if I'm not feeling like my best self. That's always been a thing for me, which is why I was inspired to, go into this industry and work in this role, because I could see the power of what clothing can do to boost our confidence. So yeah, I mean, I have morning affirmations. I don't have like a perfect morning routine. It comes and goes, but I definitely I try to show up and do my best. And again, honestly, I do use clothing, hair, and makeup to sometimes trick myself into feeling a little bit better than how I'm feeling internally.
I think there's a lot in that, in what you just said. Like everyone says, half of the battle is showing up. So that's a very interesting thing that you allow others to see. So I think it's really important that you sort of bring that to the table for others. And tell me, I mean, the creative industry is kind of unpredictable. I mean, you mentioned that you do morning affirmations. Is there anything else that you do to sort of help you stay grounded in this? It's a pretty competitive industry, a little bit cutthroat sometimes. So
Right.
how do we deal with that?
I keep, I'm again very fortunate to have a beautiful network of friends, some from elementary school, high school, different careers. So I hold those friendships close to me. I know they're genuine, and they ground me, as well as my family. Very lucky to have a super supportive family that, lives relatively close. So I think keeping those who I know are real and genuine by me. And although it is cutthroat and the industry can be a little bit tough, I have met beautiful people within the space. So finding those gems within the industry as well. And, it's great because we understand each other. We're going through the same things. So we can support each other on another level that, maybe some of my friends can't when in the context of work. So yeah, I just think it's kind of filtering through seeing, you start understanding, okay, this person has this agenda, and just really focusing on those that are genuine, and have your back and you have theirs.
100%. I think that's important in any industry, really. Like you have to sort of just connect with the right energy. I totally believe that too. And you mentioned also something that reminds me very much of the Italian sort of upbringing. I know you are Italian. We'll touch upon that in a moment, but you said, having your family, having those close ties to your community. When you look at the blue zones, a lot of people who live till 100 years old have those things in place. And so I think it's very important that you're saying, that's what helps you stay grounded, helps you get through these things. Because I think it all kind of goes back to those really important parts of life, having
Right.
the close knit family and friends and whatnot. Speaking of your Italian heritage, could you let us know where you're from, where your parents are from, or grandparents?
Yeah, so my parents were both born in Italy. My dad was born in Treviso, which is near Venice, and my mom is Calabrese, so she's from the south. I kind of call myself a fake Italian. I don't speak Italian. I don't cook. Not that that's a little stereotypical, but yeah, so my parents were born there. They came here separately. They met here actually in Little Italy, and they met at a church youth group. The purest, cutest story. So yeah, they met here, and they've been married. Next year, they're going to be married for 55 years.
That is so cool. Okay, that's a whole other story. I need to interview your parents.
Yes.
Oh my God,
I think they'd be more entertaining than me.
I
Yes, you should
love
interview my parents.
I love that. But it's funny because you're saying like fake Italian, but you know what? A lot of things that you've said today, I thought, wow, that's like very embedded into our culture,
Mm,
or, your upbringing is there. So maybe you're not continuing it, as much as your parents did. And by the way, if you want to learn Italian, I could teach you, but
okay, noted,
but
noted. Good.
but yeah, it's always there. I don't think that ever gets lost, really. Do you think there's any lessons from your previous career, specifically teaching, because it's very
Mm.
different from what you're doing now, that you use in your job now?
Yeah, so I agree. It is very different from what I'm doing now, and yet there are fundamental elements that are really carrying over to what I'm doing and have been super helpful in preparing me for what I'm doing now. So for example, when I am hosting segments on television, before it was Cityline, now it's on breakfast television. Essentially, I am teaching something to the audience, or, before it was a classroom. So I think that's been very transferable in terms of before there were maybe 30 students in their seats and I was literally seeing their faces. And now there's viewers at home that I'm speaking to, and I'm sharing information and knowledge and, demonstrating different things. So I think that actually has a pretty direct tie.
100%. I mean, as a teacher myself and having done TV as well, I had thought the same. It's very similar in that you're still giving something of yourself to others. You're still doing that service, quote unquote. But I also felt, and perhaps you can agree, that you're still on somewhat of a stage. So I always tell my teacher colleagues, like, you guys don't realize it, but you're on a stage because having done, whether it's TV or even live stage hosting, I know you do live hosting as well, you're using the same tools. So I feel like there are separations. However, like you said, they could be very similar as well.
Right. And even when I'm working one on one with a client, I want to empower, I want to teach them the skills. Of course, I want to work with them going forward, but actually, the goal is to empower them with the information so that they feel confident shopping on their own. They know what flatters their bodies, they know what feels good. And so, there's that teaching element in terms of one on one with clients as well.
Well, let's dive a little bit more into that. When you're doing a closet edit, you're not just organizing clothes, you're helping someone rediscover themselves. So, what is that experience like for you?
It selfishly, Danila, it is such a fun process for me because I really see that transformation almost immediately with the client during that, let's say, 2 to 4 hours. So, to your point, it's not just a matter of saying, let's get rid of this and purging clothes. That's one aspect, but it's more so about helping them to understand what works best for them. I give styling tips and tricks with the pieces that they own and the pieces that we're going to keep in their closet. And one line that I love hearing from clients is, I would have never put this together. And it's, if again, that's the selfish part where it feels rewarding for me to hear that, because they're getting, this newfound excitement about their wardrobe and clothes. And I'm there to help them and highlight them, and it's a win-win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're letting them see life in a different way. It's like a new mindset that you're giving them a little bit too, right? Like how to use their clothes, like you said, as this armor or how to see them differently. So I think it's such a powerful job.
Thank you. It is. I feel very blessed, and it's very intimate too when I'm going to someone's home and I'm in their closet. So I don't take that for granted. It's quite a privilege to be in such an intimate setting with someone and for them to really trust me, with their image and within their home. And, some people can be a little anxious about me going into their closet and what does their home look like? There's never any judgment. I've seen it all. I mean, you could look at my closet too. It's not perfect, right? Like, that's not what it's about. It's really about ultimately helping them to feel lighter by getting rid of the pieces that no longer serve them, and then to maximize the wearability of the pieces that are in their closet.
Okay. And this is like, it's a very amazing thing because it's showing how fashion is very emotional. Like, I think a lot of the times we just think, oh, it's the surface level thing, but it's very emotional. It's really showing who you are or learning how to speak through clothes kind of thing.
Definitely. And to your point, sometimes someone will come out of their closet with an item of clothing and they're giving a backstory behind it. Oh, well, this one, I got in Portugal with my, then fiance. And yeah, so there's definitely nostalgia and emotion that's tied to clothing. And I respect that, and I can appreciate that. So although sometimes, I want to be harsh with what to release, I think there's definitely a place in the closet. Maybe it's only 5% for those nostalgic pieces, because there are ties to them that go beyond, like you said, our physical self.
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely have clothes that, like you said, I'll be like, oh, I got that on this trip. And I was like, so I won't let those go either. It's hard. It's very hard.
Right.
All right. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit too about success. Everyone has their own definition, of course. I don't think there's one size fits all for sure. What does your definition of success look like now? Has it changed at all over the years or throughout your careers?
That is an excellent question. I feel like success to me is feeling fulfilled in my career. And I mean, I'm going to talk to it from the career aspect, although I do think it's a 360 in terms of, family, friends, and all of the things. But in terms of career, I think success is feeling fulfilled with the work that I'm doing, finding a purpose in the work that I'm doing. So being able to help, primarily women, also men, is extremely rewarding. And so I do feel like there's a purpose in that I'm helping others to feel like their best selves. Um, for me too, it's kind of the freedom of the work that I do. So working for myself and being able to build my own schedule is is a piece of success for me in my journey. So yeah, those are a couple of elements that I would deem success, where in the past maybe I just only thought of it in a financial kind of aspect. If I hit this level of income, that's success. And now I'm seeing it in different facets.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that perhaps that's even something that comes with age and just experience. I think when we're young, that's sort of the formula that's we're taught. And I think you're right. I think it sort of evolves as you realize life is just really so much more. So that's beautiful. I love that you've sort of discovered that. Now, if someone is listening and they also are, they're feeling maybe stuck and they're thinking, I also want to make some change. I want to take that leap of faith. What's some advice that you have for them?
Mm, take that first step. And I know that could sound very daunting, but I think there's momentum in movement, no matter how small that movement is. So when I was teaching and I was starting to feel that itch of, switching it up, and what happened with my aunt, it wasn't immediate. There were many steps that followed to actually leave teaching. It was having conversations with people from different careers and industries and just understanding their journeys. But again, it was taking that first step of reaching out to someone that I didn't know to have a conversation about their career and their success. So just take a step, no matter what it is, that's going to lead you in a direction to make some change.
It's amazing. And it's so true because it's like what people say, you don't need to see the whole staircase, right? You just need to see like that one first step. So I think that's pretty powerful advice. Thank you.
Thank
And you
you.
know, I just love your joy, your confidence, your
Aw.
Dolce Vita vibes, as I call them. What is it about your everyday, or what is something maybe that you sort of look for in your everyday or almost every day that gives you Dolce?
I honestly, I love people. I really, I have my moments, we all do, but I really am grateful. I think it's finding the gratitude each day. Sometimes it's journaling, sometimes it's just, seeing a friend and I'm just like feeling that joy and gratitude for them, or a delicious meal. I love art, and I'm very inspired by beautiful colors, and I love traveling and love seeing different landscapes, and that really connects me to God. And so I'd say it's there, it's here, it's everywhere, but it's just in those moments, whether I'm being intentional about feeling like, wow, like thank you for this, or it's just, that immediate joy that I get from it. It truly it's everywhere. And I
Yes.
don't know if I
Yes.
don't know if
Yeah.
that sounds
No,
too
that
blanket, but
No, it makes sense because I think you're sort of proving the point of, I always say, like, you have to look for the dolce.
Mm,
And that's why I say dolce vita living is really a mindset because it's looking for the dolce in the everyday. You know, and everyone has different definitions of that, like you said. But it really is like looking for that. So makes a lot
mhm.
of sense that you do that. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. This was so lovely. It was a joy to hear your journey. And thank you for all your amazing advice because, you know, you did something that's not necessarily easy, but definitely inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I adore you. You embody what your podcast represents. So thank you for your beautiful energy and for having me.
It's time for another Miranda moment and to learn a little bit of Italian. Have you heard the expression calzare a pennello? This is a fun expression that basically means to fit like a glove. It comes from the verb calzare, which means to wrap around the body snugly, and a pennello, which means to be painted by a brush. An example of this being used in a sentence would be, questo vestito calza a pennello. This dress fits you perfectly. So the next time something fits you wonderfully, remember the Italian expression calzare a pennello.